Okay, here we go. Welcome to the Aired Out Podcast, live from my basement. Again, here we are, temporary space. Hopefully not for too long, maybe a couple of months though. But at least we're here, we're set up, and we're in good shape, and we can still speak with you all. Today we have, as always, on Wednesdays, Thom Lauzon, who's going to give us a wrap-up of last night's city council, talk about the FEMA meeting, and all of the in-betweens. So, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay.
You are okay.
I am okay. I feel like, normal is as normal does. So last night I was thinking, council meeting started at 5. I suggested to Nicholas, I said, look, the staff has had a long day. Why don't we push the council start time forward so they're not sitting there until 10 o'clock when they've already worked, most of them, a 12-hour day.
Right.
So about 4:30, I wandered home, and Karen was a little surprised because I went upstairs, took a shower, and I put a collared shirt and a jacket on. I had not worn a collared shirt and a jacket since July 10th.
Yeah.
So, normal is as normal does. So, stepping back and, from a 10,000-foot view, I really feel the city is turning a corner. We were in response mode for quite a while, and now I really feel that we are firmly, thank you, God, for making it the rain stop. But I really feel like, we're turning the corner in recovery, and we're solidly in recovery mode. We know we have a lot of work to do, but we've been talking. I'm just so proud of Barry, of everyone, who has been chipping in, the volunteers. I mean, Rainbow Bridge Coalition. I don't know if they have power back yet, but they're still out there doing it. I know their landlord. I spoke with their landlord yesterday. He is working on the building. I'm not sure if they have power yet, but they, without power, they've been there every day.
Yeah,
with this army of volunteers.
They didn't. When I dropped off stuff for them on Monday, they still
I don't
did not
think
have power.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
They just started with the basement remediation, the deep cleaning. The ServPro crew got there yesterday and started removing things from the basement. But people like that who have been there every day. How Barry has really taken the bull by the horns and has asked for very little. That has been noticed at the highest level. I mean, I have text messages from the governor, just the admiration he has for Barry, and asking me, what do you need? What do we, we're okay. For right now, okay. We are going to need, there will be an ask. But in the governor's words, he said, well, I just admire what Barry is doing on their own and how far you've come, and at the right time, we intend to show you a little love. I think there will be some announcements. I connected Nicholas Sturella Castro with Secretary Joe Flynn from VTrans. We're clearly going to need a little bit of help, getting some of these streets open. North Main Street in particular. I own 540 North Main, which is the Dollar General and Central Vermont Solid Waste Management District building. So I'm on the north end every day as I make my rounds multiple times a day. And I see the devastation down on the north end. And I don't like having that road closed because it only isolates them further. There are volunteers down there. Team Rubicon was down there.
Yeah.
Believe me, those folks they're getting assistance. They're going to need more. But I think just opening that road would restore a sense of normalcy.
Absolutely, and for the businesses there.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity going on down there. So if you do have a reason, if you're a volunteer, I usually drive with a sense of purpose. I like to think I drive carefully. When I have a truck, so the fact that the roads are washed out in places, the truck doesn't have a problem with that. But I'm always very aware of my speed as I go through there. There are just a lot of volunteers, a lot of activity in that area, so we've got to be careful. But so I have no doubt that, like I said, the governor has been in constant contact, and I have no doubt that at the appropriate time when we're ready, the state resources will be there to assist us. Good segue into the FEMA meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, so people had a lot of questions, a lot of frustration, a lot of people.
It's confusing.
It's not only confusing. There are a lot of people who are saying, "Screw it! I've been flooded 3, 4, or 5 times, and I just want my house bought out. I want to be in the buyout program." The buyout program is a process. I've got to look and compare some of in 2011, we had 24 properties that we entered into the buyout program, and 5 were selected, just to put things in perspective. I'm sure there are going to be some houses or homes that were flooded that at first glance you'd look at them and say, well, sure, that should be part of the buyout program. But they may not be selected.
Mm-hmm.
It is a competitive process. There are finite dollars. I know that the governor is absolutely committed to putting as many resources as he can into that program, put forth mitigation efforts that make sense. But we've got a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
We not only... So when you think about resources of state government, we've got to continue to build housing because we have a housing shortage. That hasn't changed. It's only gotten worse.
It's gotten worse.
It's gotten worse. Mm-hmm. We have to recover, and we have to mitigate. And we have limited resources. So that's going to be our challenge going forward, is putting our money and, even privately, as I'm working on our buildings, I'm constantly thinking about how I stretch the resources. And that doesn't mean stretch the money. Mm-hmm. We've got to spend the money.
Right.
But putting people on tasks that do the most good. We had a basement on Metro Way, one of the only basement in the complex. It had 4 feet of mud. 4 feet.
Oh, my God.
And I'll tell you what, Trim Schweenard, he's just been incredible. But there was we vacked it out. $16,000 just to vac out. It's probably about 1,000 square foot basement. And I couldn't, it wasn't a good, wise use of resources to put 10 guys down there shoveling for 2 weeks.
Lugging buckets.
It's like, I've got other work
mm-hmm.
that you need to do. And there are other people who need to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So, things like that with garbage. We didn't put our garbage into dumpsters. We piled it. Mm-hmm. It's not there anymore. It's all gone. Mm-hmm. The reason we piled it is because if we make gigantic piles, we can bring in large trucks and we can scoop it up with a loader. And it's, again, so you've got to as a private business owner, you've got to constantly be thinking of ways to stretch the human resources so that you
can spread them further.
Yeah. So, as a company, I'm proud of where we are personally. As a company, we have power restored at all of the units, residential and commercial. We have sprinkler service restored at all of the buildings, residential and commercial. A lot of folks are still without heat and are going to be for a while. We've ordered all the furnaces. It's going to take a while to get here. Mm-hmm. But we have guaranteed installation date by September 30th. Cornerstone furnace and hot water work starts tomorrow. Remediation on that building has been completed. We've still got a lot of prettying up to do, and we still have a lot of work to do. But like I said, I think the city as a whole is really turning a corner. Mm-hmm. Do you feel it? I mean,
I do.
I just feel like we are. And
from day one, I can, even just being out there on day one and seeing where we are now is a huge difference.
So, I look at my job as a city councilor to again, just be in constant contact with the administration and making sure that the city of Barre gets the resources that we need. Mm-hmm. And, we've already started having the conversations about the buyout program and what properties could be eligible. I just really need to caution people that everything is a process. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a while and that's the part that keeps me up at night. I look at homes, and, Jeff Norway at the FEMA meeting had a comment, and he said, well, we need fast answers. We're out here fixing our properties up, trying to preserve what we have, but if it's going to be bought out, we're wasting our money. And I can't look at Jeff and say, you're wrong.
You're wrong, yeah.
But you're dealing with federal funds, state funds. There is going to be a process. I wish it was quicker. But it has to take some time, Raylene, because, if you had 5 or 6 affected areas and you bought one property in each area, well,
right.
You haven't really mitigated shit.
Right.
So we also have to be thoughtful about how we spend this money, and we have to spend it in the most effective way possible. And
how you're going to build back.
And I can tell you that we likely will not buy out all of the properties that if you or I were to walk around and say, well, this one, likely they won't all be eligible. They will not all be chosen.
They won't.
So there's 1,000 things running around in my head. What does our grand list look like when we're done? Properties have definitely been damaged. People have already reached out, asked for abatement. And again, I got to tell you, I've always been an admirer of the governor, but he's so patient with me. 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, he'll have the conversations with you. And the latest one was, we've had people reach out and ask about abating their taxes. I get it. Your home is destroyed.
Not
and
usable.
So I understand that request. The problem is we as a city have to be very careful, because if we abate their taxes, we're on the hook for the education taxes. There is a process to get the education tax. So that was my latest question. And there will be a process. I think it will have to be, and the governor believes.
You guys touched on that a little bit last night.
Yeah, we believe it will have to be legislative. But what I explain to people is, you may get your property tax bill. And I'll say it more frankly here than I did in the council meeting. I think everybody got what I was saying. If your choice is between paying your property tax bill or putting groceries on the table, and your house is wiped out, then buy your groceries. It's going to take some time. It's going to be a process, but we're going to make this right. So the fact that you didn't pay your property taxes that were due on September 30th because you've applied for abatement and you really don't have the money, that's not the end of the world. Now, if you do have the money and you apply for abatement and you've paid your property taxes, we will refund that money. So it's the process, it's the check marks, it's prioritizing. And we can fix an abatement issue 6 months after the fact. If someone is hungry and thirsty on the north end and they need our resources today, I can't fix that. I can't wait 6 months to fix. So we're constantly prioritizing. And, again, I say it a lot, city staff, Nicholas Durella Castro,
amazing.
I couldn't ask for any more. It's not a job. When you look at the people who serve at City Hall, it's not a job. It's in their heart. None of them are quitting. None of them are giving up. Carol Dawes has been at it 10 hours a day. Her house is not occupiable right now. I don't know if a lot of people know that. She is one of the affected properties up on Batchelder Street. So despite the fact that she can't be in her home right now, she's going to work every day, working 10, 12 hours a day, and making sure and thinking about the city's finances, which her and I spoke about yesterday prior to the council meeting. Finances are fine. I mean, the city's not going to run out of money. We're going to have to juggle a little bit. We know
you may not spend the money as you may not be spending money as originally anticipated, with other, but.
Yeah, we'll have to effect a budget adjustment. That'll happen in December. The budget adjustment has to be hindsight because there's no way we can project what we're going to do. So we'll make that budget adjustment in hindsight once we're 75% or so through this crisis. So those are the things that I do every day. I spend the early morning hours, at my own properties. Eric, like I said, Eric Lauzon, Trim, Dougie, Kendall, Isaac, those guys are just getting it done for me. They have not let me down, and I couldn't be more grateful. I don't know how I say thank you, but there'll be the right time, and I will have a lot of thank yous to say, as I guess we all will. So that's what I do, sort of in the early morning hours until about 8, 9-ish, and then it's spent dialing for dollars for Barry.
Right.
Trying to get.
How are you going to get this done?
Yeah, and I have no doubt that that Barry will get what they need.
And part of the process is keeping people hopeful and engaged and knowing that they're not going to be deserted and that somehow we'll all find a path forward in this. It doesn't seem it right now. It's still, even though the progression has been great, it feels like we're still underwater a little bit, and some people feel that way.
Yeah, well, when someone who lives on the north end gets up, in the morning and their stuff is still in their front lawn and trying to figure out what they can save, and they don't have heat and they don't have hot water, and they're wondering what their path looks like going forward, and then they have to trudge up to the FEMA van and they're using words and phrases that they don't really understand. No one gets left behind, period. We didn't in 11, we didn't in 15, and we're not going to do it. Even though this flooding is more severe, we're not going to do it now. That's with our recovery team. And, sorry, I jump around. So just a lot in my head. So back in 11, I formed a recovery team. Joellen Calderera was incredible in spearheading that effort, and we put a lot of resources into a recovery team, sort of a one-stop shop where we could help people recover and connect them with services and programs. And that program was really successful. Carol Dawes was around for it. And so anyway, we dusted off that playbook. Nicholas Torella Castro heard about it from Carol, and then he reached out to me, and he said, hey, could you attend a meeting, and how would you do? And I said, get Joellen. I realized Joellen, she is severely impacted by this flood as well, personally. But Joellen has graciously offered to help kick this off. She won't be doing it full time. She is retired, and she has her own issues that she's dealing with regard to her home and neighbors' homes. So we're going to kick that off tomorrow, and we're going to dust off that playbook and, fire up. We're going to get the band back together.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, we're, again, having been around for 2 other floods, I know the steps. I know the boxes that need to be checked, and consistently I see us checking the right boxes. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Do you see a timeline? Do you think?
For recovery?
Yeah.
Years. Yeah. I mean, we'll be finding silt in nooks and crannies for literally years. And it's important to make the right decisions. I understand that I have resources that some don't have. I get that. But even things like, I mentioned our sprinkler systems. You have different types of systems, wet systems, dry systems. They have some things in common. They all have a flow switch. Flow switch is simple. When a sprinkler head goes off because there's a fire, a flow detector detects flow in the lines and notifies you that the system is active. Basically, something has activated the system. Those switches in all of the systems that I have were underwater. You have things like low pressure monitoring. You have panel monitoring, compressors that were literally underwater. Amazingly, everything works. I don't get it, but
somehow
everything works and every system is up. What I told Tommy and Johnny, they came down yesterday to get all the systems up and running. I just, replace everything. Because
just in case
it's going to fail.
Yeah.
If your panel gets wet, your electrical panel, please, we want to restore your power as quickly as possible. Your breakers are not going to rust tomorrow. They're not going to rust in a week. They're going to rust in a month. And when your breakers rust, which is why we say get everything out of the panel, clean the panel, dry the panel, put everything back. When your breakers rust, they will not function. So if you're overheating a circuit, the breaker won't trip. So we've got to be aware of those things as well, and we've got to keep in touch with people, because there may be people who didn't have insurance and they couldn't afford to replace those breakers, but they need power. We need to make sure that we approach them in a very non-threatening way and say, look, we are not here to turn off your power and take something from you, but we're here to make sure to monitor your home, to get an honest assessment, and if you need $300 worth of breakers to make your home safe, we're going to find a way to get you the $300.
Right. You just want to safely restore.
Yeah, and a lot of people are a little scared. Public safety has been doing a great job. They were operating in full-on crisis mode in the beginning, and in the beginning, when they literally had to triage, they were pulling power on a lot of homes. And they had to move quickly from home to home. They were trying to save people. Power has, in the majority of those homes, power has since been restored. And now they're taking a little bit different approach. They're talking to people, helping them assess, and they're telling them, look, I'm not pulling your power today, but I'll be back in 3 days, and you really need to have an electrician come out here and assess this. And we just need to make sure your home is safe and that you're safe. And that we don't, so we don't want to pitch anybody from one crisis to another. We don't want to, God bless them, if a basement that has been mucked out and has been pumped and their furnace is off and they have power on the upper floors and they have a, reasonable, clean place to sleep reasonably. I mean, we're all...
Right.
Yeah, the mud is... You notice I took my shoes off outside. I'm used to doing that. I haven't... I know. Yeah, it's funny. So I got these big work boots and I don't lace them now. There's a reason. There's a reason now. The reason now, I didn't lace them right from the beginning. The reason being, the first time I went into a basement, I didn't realize how deep the muck was. I stepped in it and literally went up past my ankles, and I couldn't get my I couldn't get my boots out. Yeah. I couldn't move. It was literally like quicksand. So, and then to unlace my boots, I'm in this muck trying to, literally hands buried in muck. I couldn't see what I was doing. I finally got the boots unlaced, had to leave them there. And that was the end of the...
Leaving your socks.
No, I had my sock, which was gross because I had my socks, and my socks are still on. Had to run home, get another pair of boots. So no, I don't. So then after that, I said, I'm not lacing the boots. So if I was aware, but if I get stuck in the muck... then I can pull my boot. I can pull out real easy and
no problem.
Yeah, and move on. And so now I leave my boots unlaced just so I can slip them on and off easily, so that I don't, when I go into my office or into City Hall, or it's gonna be a little Asian here in Barrie, because I have a feeling everybody's gonna have their shoes lined up outside their door. So maybe they're onto something there.
Josh.
So we're this kind of went sideways. We're here to help, and I feel like now people are not getting everything they need, but I feel like we're turning a corner. We're solidly in recovery.
And then we have a question from Josh Akers.
Yeah.
He wanted to know, can you please confirm if any consideration was taken for the historical but residential owned housing in the buying process for total loss houses? There are two on the north end that I can think of. The Victorian across from the intersection by Mr. Z's, and then the church by Beverage Baron. I don't know if the owners applied. I will say we wouldn't want those buildings becoming more destitute.
Right. There is, well, first of all, did they apply? If his question is, did they apply in 2011 or 15? I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe they did. I looked at the list quickly. Oh, hey, Nicholas Storilla Castro. I don't believe they did. And I know there is consideration if it is a historic structure, that is part of the process. And so in some instances, they move them. The church would be, that would be
a tough one.
Yeah. But even thinking about the church, I don't the church is a pretty robust structure. It's stone. Interestingly, I know the property, the Victorian that he's referring to, across from Mr. Z's, or kind of diagonally from Mr. Z's, because I, along with Brad Ormsby and Mark McCarthy, we own the next two buildings. I don't know if those would be good candidates or not. I can think of other candidates in the North End where the flooding is much more severe. That likely, I could think of a lot of properties on the North End that would likely be, that could be a higher priority. But I know they do. That is part of the decision-making process in terms of whether a property is historic, and in some cases whether the property can actually be moved. Whether it would be possible to move the property to another lot out of harm's way if it's a viable structure. Because sometimes, the consideration isn't so much the property as the land around. It's the land underneath it. And if we remove the structure and get the structure out of harm's way, how will the acquisition, like we did on Brook Street, where there was some excavation, we didn't build up, we actually created a bowl, and then we put in trash racks, and those trash racks are full. I'm absolutely convinced
for sure
that they prevented more damage downstream. So that's really more the consideration of the buyout program. And it's important that instead of, it's not like legislative dollars where typically the legislature, we want to do some in Chittenden County and Orange County and Washington County, and they spread the fiscal love around the state. This is really about effect. It's important that we make good decisions. And if there are, for example, 30 properties that we have to consider, and we say, well, these 10 in this area would do the most good, then unfortunately we're going to have to remove those other 20 from consideration. It doesn't mean they all don't make sense. It just means that we are not going to have the resources to, if you were to take a poll of the people in Barre and say, how many people would like us to just buy their building? If you were to take a poll today, there are going to be a lot more people who would like to be bought out than are going to be bought out. That is just a fact.
It's part of the process, like you say.
And is that the Josh Akers and his wife? They have been. Thank you.
Yes,
they have
been boots on the ground on the North End.
They have been moving mountains in the North End and around the city. So thank you very
Josh's
much.
wife, Sarah,
both for your question and for everything that you and your wife Sarah
and
are doing.
that's Sarah's family down there. Sue owns the snack shack. That's her grandmother. And she has a lot of family down there.
Yep. And now it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. I went to pick up my son at Spruce Mountain the other day when he was done, and it was gone. And it's very odd to see that. It was hard to see that. There's kind of a wave of emotion when I drive past a lot of those homes on 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 4th Street, on the North End on 302. My heart breaks. It really does. I do not like seeing people suffer. But then that quickly turns to resolve, and which is what
why,
are we going to do?
Every single day I'm in communication with the administration, and I am determined that that Barre is going to see its share of resources. I realize, our neighbors in Montpelier, they got hit hard too. I dare say that Barre was worse. I think in some, and again, I'm just so proud of Barre and the way we have responded and the way that we've responded on our own.
We
but like I said,
together,
trust
like
me,
always.
I can show you our text messages, but then I'd have to kill you. But the governor notices, and he has the highest respect and admiration for how Barre City is conducting ourselves. And so it was council meeting. So what did we do?
What did you do? Well,
we started at 5. I wore a jacket.
Really quick. There was
no, I mean, I think we did the right thing. I think we're keeping the council meeting short and sweet and staying the heck out of Nicholas's way. One of the things we did is just gave him broad authority to make decisions with regard to our procurement policy.
And he's proven he can do that and do it well. He
Look,
has our best interest at heart, obviously.
I mean, personally, I'd be happy with abolishing the council for the next 2 months and just appointing Nicholas
supporting
King.
him in what he does.
Appoint him king, and
yeah,
we'll see you in 2 months. No, it's important. I mean, the council's working hard as well. But it's important. The question I asked Nicholas as he presented these things, as I said, is it enough? I don't want you coming back in 2 weeks and saying, I need a little more. Whatever you need now, you're making good decisions.
Let's get it done. Yeah.
And Nicholas does not make decisions in a vacuum. He has an incredibly hardworking, the department heads are hardworking, they're knowledgeable. Most of them have, this is their third rodeo. Not their first time. So he makes decisions in consultation with them. And that's what I really like about his management style. He considers everyone's opinion. Everyone has an opportunity to voice their opinion. But at the end of the day, he's not afraid to make a decision. And that's how you move the city forward, again, by staying in touch with the administration, advocating for those resources, making decisions, and moving things forward. So, I was willing to give him whatever he needed, and council felt the same way. And, so it was kind of short and sweet.
It was.
We didn't really do I do want to give another shout out to... we have a lot of workers on the ground right now. I've thanked our volunteers, and we'll continue to do that. Like Sarah and her husband. But the crews that you see working, the ServPro crews and Service Master, there are a lot of non-English speaking workers who work for those companies, and they work hard. They are respectful. They are helpful. And I saw this article, and I'm sure it was a one-off. It was an article it was in VT Digger, and it mentioned some of the workers felt they didn't quite feel the love because they had gone to a food cart or a food place where they had food for people, and they were told, this food is for volunteers. You can't have any.
Right.
Listen, my first reaction when I read that was kind of shock, because I'm like, that's not the Montpelier I know. I like to think that was a one-off, that I don't know, maybe it was some misguided douchebag or something. But I don't know. I wasn't there, and I always try really hard to reserve judgment until I get all the facts. Like, for example, a lot of people are saying, some landlords are doing nothing. Well, okay, I don't know that. Now, I know what I've done in my buildings, and fortunately, I did not have to purchase any 400 amp disconnects. Because if you need a 400 amp disconnect, most buildings are 100 or 200 amp. This home is either 100 or 200 guaranteed. You're not bigger than that. But if you have a bigger building that requires a 400 or 600 amp disconnect, good luck with that. You couldn't. They were back ordered 7 months before the pandemic, so I don't know, how. So I always try to reserve judgment, and I did in that situation when I heard about folks in Montpelier not offering food to some of these paid workers who work for ServPro. I can tell you that our buildings are being professionally cleaned because that's just how we roll. The crews there is definitely a language barrier. There absolutely is.
Yes.
Every crew has a team leader. But I guarantee you, in my case, every member of that crew understands thank you. They understand a smile. They understand when I offer them a bottle of cold, water, or I buy them lunch. They understand. There's no language barrier there. But most
Smile,
of all,
pat on the back, anything. Yeah.
They speak limited English, but they understand thank you.
And they're working hard.
They're working hard,
us.
and I don't know. People always have their opinion of me. I don't like that.
No.
And I will eat somebody's lunch if I see that. If I see that happening, you treat people with respect. I don't care if they're paid or unpaid. they're working hard. And let me tell you something, that, we've been using pretty consistently the Serve Pro team from Colchester. Jess is their team leader. I'm sure they're all fine. I only have experience with them.
I know the team that's in our building is pretty incredible too.
Yeah, and they are awesome. They are awesome. And we're even trying to use them as sparingly, not cost reasons. I understand that there's a lot of buildings. We were among the first ones. We jumped on it quickly. We wrote the check quickly. We got them down here. We said, look, insurance, no insurance, whatever. You're
Just
getting
do
paid.
it.
We have resources. And so if you need more than half down, I want you to know that I'll respect you. I'll work with you. And most importantly, you give me a quote and you're going to be paid. So we were very fortunate, as we have been with Trim and Eric and Dougie and the folks who have been with us for 30 years and just jumped to help. So I'm sure it's all the same, but Jess and her Serpro team from Colchester have just been a pleasure to work with. Everything they say they're going to do, they've done. Couldn't have asked for any more. So,
Chris he's a Barry City resident. Chris Massey says, when I went around in downtown Barry, I brought anyone and everyone as much food and water as possible in my SXS. He had his little four-wheeler thing.
Nice.
Souped up one down in Barry. It was pretty funny. I saw
Chris,
him at
thank you.
Rainbow Bridge. But he said the out-of-state Serve Pro teams were very, very appreciative, and food breaks the language barrier 100%.
Well, I think number one on that list would have to be beer, Chris. Sorry, I'll disagree a little
Yeah,
with you.
yeah.
But food is number two.
Yeah, right. Give him a
No, I
sandwich.
haven't offered anyone beer.
Not before 5 o'clock, anyway.
No, no. Okay, so you talk for a while. I'm going to jump and take this call.
All right, here, I'll dump you. Okay, so Thom has run off to take a phone call that he needs to take, and I give a little love to the weather today, because we didn't do that this morning. Super beautiful day, going to be a beautiful day in the 80s, but we are expecting some rain to come in tonight and rain into tomorrow. So how did that go?
That quick phone call?
Are you stepping out?
No. Well, I mean, we'll be wrapping up. We got to have things to talk about, and I'm busy. But no, I mean, no. I so for folks who don't know, the entire VTrans team and Secretary Flynn, Joe Flynn, who I worked with for years when I was mayor, they're in Barry showing the love. They have a whole team of volunteers from VTrans who have come down to help us out. And the secretary is here. So I had just told Nicholas, I said, hey, when Secretary Flynn hits town, I said, just let me know where he's going to be. I just want to stop by. And, he's been very gracious with his time and certainly been supporting Barry. So, when I get the opportunity, I just like to stop by and,
Scoot
say
down
thank
and
you.
say thank you.
Maybe Secretary Flynn will be what time is it? It's like 9:04. Too early for a beer. I can't bring him a beer.
Yeah.
I was going to say he could have been the first. Maybe the governor will be the first. I don't know who the first beer recipient.
Who it will be?
We're all going to be ready for.
I'll
no,
have a beer,
I
Thom.
haven't been drinking during
Tom.
this flood since the 10th. I've really, because I'm afraid if I have a beer, I won't stop.
Right, you just keep going till you pass out somewhere tired.
I'm so proud of where we're at. We have a long way to go. This is going to be a process. I'm already concerned about our ability to heat homes and get heating systems installed for the winter. That's going to be our next big challenge, and I already started talking with people about that and how we facilitate that. It does not appear, thankfully, that the availability of heating units is going to be an issue. But I think, that's going to be our next big challenge. Right now it's 80 degrees and we're all enjoying it. This is Vermont.
Right.
We got August, then it's Labor Day, and then all of a sudden the temperatures can easily go to 45 at night. So
I know in our building, Jen had to just change things around a bit. She doesn't have a furnace, but she had to convert hot water to electric
Yep.
so that she could get hot water to her tenants and
Right.
still do
And
those
we're all
things.
doing
There's
that.
a lot of
We're triaging things,
Mhm.
and Jen made the right call.
Mhm.
Because if you want to restore hot water quickly, and the hot water comes off the boiler, even if Jen could move mountains, she might get a boiler installed in 6 weeks.
right.
So she made the right call. So good for you, Jen, because it cost you a little more money.
Yeah.
Because what she's going to do is she's going to throw out. You got your attack dogs going here.
No.
She's going to throw out. Probably throw out those hot water heaters because she's going to reinstall her system and come off the boiler again. But and so thank you, Jen, because it's those kinds of decisions where, okay, I could cheap out and just tell my tenants you're going to be without hot water for 6 weeks, or I can do what I can to make sure they have hot water
Yeah,
as
and
quickly
6
as
weeks
possible.
is an awful long time to go without hot water. But people are doing it, and people will do it. They'll
some
have to.
people are going to have to
Yep.
do it. So, one of the comments that I had for Nicholas when we think about our shelter up at the auditorium, you better think about keeping that shelter open for a very long time.
I did hear you say that last night, that
Yeah.
it will be needed.
Yeah, I'm all over that, because my concern is that, it's 85 degrees. So folks get power. They can go back to their home. They're where they're comfortable. Their possessions are there. They can protect them. That's what they want. That's what we all want for them. But then all of a sudden, something happens. The temperatures dip. It is 45 at night, and it becomes harder to occupy that residence. And we make it, but there's going to be a lot of heating appliances that are installed just in the nick of time, and there are going to be some heating appliances that are installed after the nick of time, where people will be okay, but they may have spent a week or so of pretty uncomfortable nights in their home. But, again, that's the triage. That's the, I'm okay if someone doesn't have hot water today and someone doesn't have heat today, as long as, because they have a refrigerator.
Right.
So they can keep their food cold, and they're not relying
Roof
on
over
takeout
their
food.
head.
Yeah, they have a roof over their head. Maybe it's not perfect,
Right.
but it's safe.
Right.
And as long as we can say that, we're making forward progress. So,
I agree.
listen, I'll just keep doing what I do.
And we'll keep being grateful that you do what you do. I know many
This is my
that
home.
are.
This is my home.
Yeah.
And, this is going to be very expensive for me personally. I'm okay with that. I am 110% committed to Barry, and I'm not going to stop until things are right. So, yeah. So with that, thank you, Barry. Thank you for everything you do. Love you all.
And thank you very much for coming and spending your Wednesday morning with me when you have a million other things to do. Spending it with me and everybody else. So,
Happy to do it.
Thank you all. We will see you tomorrow morning. JD will be back. I think actually we're going to be on the road tomorrow. I don't remember where we're going. He did tell me once, I think. And but that's what we'll do tomorrow. We'll be on the road, but we'll see you at 9. Thanks.